Are you guys staging for law enforcement? We have history at this house with weapons.
No, I do have confirmed 3 patients. They're all unconscious.
And we begin here at 5 o'clock with a rash of overdoses in McMinnville. One woman died, 6 others are in the hospital, and first responders had their hands full with the crisis. Thank you for joining us. I'm Laurel Porter.
And I'm David Mulco. 6 of the 7 overdoses were at a single home, and it appears like in many other cases, it is because of fentanyl. Let's bring in Tim Gordon in McMinnville. Tim, it also sounds like the scale here, so many people at once, in some ways overwhelmed first responders.
Yeah, this was a whole lot to handle all at once. In fact, a McMinnville police officer even drove a patient in an ambulance here to the local hospital so more medics could stay on the scene.
I do have confirmed 3 patients. They're all unconscious.
A tough way to start this Friday for McMinnville first responders, from fire and EMS to the police department. Called to this home on Northwest Cedar Street about 1 a.m. Inside, they found 4 people unconscious, 2 in cardiac arrest, and all the signs of fentanyl overdose.
4 people were treated. We used all the naloxone, all the Narcan that we had in our cars, and I believe fire used up theirs as well. So just multiple doses had to be administered to these people that had overdosed at the residence.
Police Chief Matt Scales says his officers were called in to help. There were 2 guns visible in the home, and they immediately got involved with medics doing CPR and delivering the opioid antidote, Narcan. In fact, Yamhill County deputies brought more Narcan to the scene to help.
Can you tap volunteers to Staff Station 1? Break Cameron, can you get more Narcan from Medic 1 before they leave, please?
You can hear from radio traffic this was an all-out life-saving effort at the home. And at the same time, 2 people were being dropped off by private car at Willamette Valley Medical Center. Police now know they were from the same home, also suffering from the same type of overdose.
Don't trust a drug dealer. Don't trust anything that you don't know where it came from, period.
Police believe all 6 were ingesting cocaine that they probably weren't aware was laced with fentanyl. Back on Cedar Street.
They've always been very nice, the people that I've interacted with. We don't ever have any problems with them.
What happened sinks in for neighbor Annika Strickland.
Just the idea that you never know what exactly it is you're going to be getting, and the way that can just literally end your whole entire life.
Unfortunately, that's exactly the result for one young woman, now dead, and the others recovering from a type of overdose all too common.
Not just in the state of Oregon, not in McMinnville, it's nationwide, we all know that. This is, when it hits smack, then it hits home.
We mentioned a 7th person also overdosing, brought to the hospital here from the Yamhill County Jail to be treated. So an extremely busy time and certainly a very sad time as well, especially with that one young woman dying from overdose. And again, the 6 people at that house probably didn't even know they were taking fentanyl. Back to you guys in Portland.
Tragic indeed. Thank you, Tim. In the meantime, the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office says it has made another big fentanyl bust. Deputies found 3,000 pills plus meth, a knife, and more than $1,100 in cash. 2 people were also taken into custody during a traffic stop this week in Wood Village. On Wednesday, deputies in Clark County reported they'd seized 13,000 fentanyl pills during a drug bust there.
In our homeless crisis, a partnership designed to clean up Portland camps on ODOT land is already out of money. Now, ODOT says it provided the Rose City with $2 million for the fiscal year that ends in June. It added it's up to the city to manage those funds, and it appears the money has already been spent. ODOT says the city can continue the cleanups, but it's going to have to foot the bill itself. Both now say they are working to find extra funding.
New developments tonight surrounding alleged corruption within the Oregon Liquor and Cannabis Commission. Today, the Oregon Attorney General's office announced it is starting a criminal investigation. This stems from allegations that top OLCC executives and managers used their positions to reserve rare bourbons for themselves and kept them away from the public. The AG's office is now looking into possible ethics violations. Earlier in the week, Governor Tina Kotek called on the accused executives to resign.
Well, right on the heels of the Chinese balloon, today the Pentagon announced it shot down an unknown object flying in U.S. airspace off the Arctic coast of Alaska. Now, military officials say whatever it was flying at an altitude that posed a threat to civilian flights. NBC's Alice Barr with the latest.
Good evening. The Pentagon and the White House both confirming that President Biden gave the order at the advice of the military to shoot down what they're calling a high-altitude object that was flying over Alaskan airspace and that it actually came down over frozen Arctic waters. Crews now working to recover the debris and try to figure out what this thing was. Of course, a lot of comparisons to that Chinese spy balloon the U.S. shot down just 6 days ago. But officials say they do not know who owns this object or what it might have been doing up there, whether it's state-owned or private. Another difference, it's a lot smaller than that Chinese spy balloon, which had a payload the size of 3 buses. This thing U.S. fighter jets shot down this afternoon. It's being described as roughly the size of a small car. U.S. officials saying it was first detected last evening and that the fighter jet pilots were able to determine that it was unmanned before they shot it down. The object was flying at about 40,000 feet. That is lower than the Chinese spy balloon was flying at. And another reason the Pentagon says this one was shot down sooner.
So you have to look at each individual case on its own merits. In this particular case, given the fact that it was operating at an altitude that posed a reasonable threat to civilian air traffic, the determination was made and the president gave the order to take it down.
The president, asked about this incident today, just said success. The military still working to recover debris from that first Chinese spy balloon. The FBI working to analyze it, and officials now faced with a similar task in this case as Americans are really asking more and more questions about who could be watching us from above. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.
We look forward to hearing more about what that object was. Farm workers in Washington recently won the right to collect overtime pay in the state, but now growers, the employers of those field workers, are pushing back. A recent law gradually allows farm workers to collect more overtime pay. By next year, they'll collect overtime for every hour worked over a 40-hour work week. But a new proposal in Olympia would roll back those regulations and allow growers to choose 12 weeks out of the year where their field employees could work up to 50 hours without getting paid overtime. Farmers say otherwise, they'll have to cut overtime hours to 0.
They are having to seek additional work elsewhere if they want to keep earning more money, or they're going to see a net decrease in their take-home pay.
However, some farm workers say this would mean they'd be working more during the busiest time of year and making less money. They're upset the proposal is even being considered.
The head of the U.S. Small Business Administration made stops in our region today where she met with local leaders and entrepreneurs. And as Ashley Korslund reports tonight, she was joined by a familiar face with a small business background.
Do you have plans to grow and expand?
The head of the U.S. Small Business Administration, Isabella Casillas Guzman, visited the Pacific Northwest on Friday. She met with small business owners like Michael Larry, the owner of Source Climbing Center in Vancouver.
We have SBA loans that we're managing right now, and to talk to the administrator of those loans directly, that's a unique experience.
SBA gives them the resources, the funding, the networks, and the support to succeed.
Guzman was joined by Washington Congresswoman Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez, who was recently appointed to the House Committee on Small Business. The two highlighted President Biden's American Rescue Plan and the more than 10 million new business startups in the U.S. in the last 2 years, including 100,000 new applications in Washington state.
The SBA can be a really fundamental partner in figuring out how to buy your property, how to get your foot in the door of commercial real estate. So it's a really critical time to be investing in our small businesses.
They acknowledge that many businesses were hit hard during the pandemic and are still struggling with record inflation, high gas prices, and supply chain issues. Guzman encouraged entrepreneurs to take advantage of loans and grants available through the SBA.
We want to make sure that as we make these historic investments, small businesses feel that they're connected.
Guzman also toured Portland's Alberta Commons to learn how the city is offering low-cost loans to minority business owners.
They're here to see how we're doing the work, what kind of technical support we're offering, what kind of grant programs we're offering.
I'm Black, I'm a woman, and I'm in a predominantly white state.
Marlette Hurst says grants have helped grow her company, Z Acela Natural Skincare. It's financing that's made the difference for her business and something she hopes to see others utilize in the future.
So it does make me feel seen, it makes me feel heard, and I do believe that that is needed in this community at all times.
Ashley Korsland, KGW News.
In health headlines tonight, the Oregon Health Authority says it is seeing a significant decrease in hospitalizations for respiratory viruses. Doctors say we are nearing the end of RSV season. Flu cases saw a slight increase recently, but are now expected to fall. And more good news here, COVID hospitalizations have been dropping since December and are now flattening out. Now, if this continues, OHA says they may soon consider lifting mask requirements for healthcare settings.